see you guys in the dark.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Barnaby's is proud to present, from us to you, the one, the only, Santa Claus. That's right, Santa Claus will be here at Barnaby's December 21st through the 24th from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. So stop on by and visit Santa's little workshop located in the field behind the store and take home your free, that's right, free picture of your child or yourself with Santa Claus. Bring yourselves, bring your kids, bring your letters, bring your lists. As always, we thank you for shopping at Barnaby's. Have a safe holiday. What's up, y'all? I'm Daryl. I work frozen foods here at Barnaby's. I've been here almost a year now. I got hired on the same day that Lady's necklace got caught in the conveyor belt. I'm also part of SPLAT. It's something that Pat came up with. Stands for Sales and Promotions Live Announcement Team. There are 3 of us on the team. Mike, the grocery manager, Ricky from the dairy department, and myself. Since we're all comfortable speaking on the microphone. Here's how it works. Every day that one of us is scheduled to work, we have to take turns standing up at the front of the store, make announcements every 15 minutes for any products that are on sale that week, or any special promotions that are going on within the store. Now Barnaby's is an old store, as I'm sure you all know. We don't have one of those big fancy PA systems like the big name stores do. We have to stand up front, by the registers, with a megaphone, and make our announcement that way. It scares the little kids sometimes. Anyways, I used to live in New York City. I moved out there about 10 years ago and tried to make it as a rap artist, but no one wants to hear an old school rapper like me nowadays. It's all the gangster crap. Anyways, the other day, I was sitting in my car on break, listening to Bring the Noise by Anthrax and Public Enemy. I love that song. I like it better than the original. For those of you that have no idea what I'm talking about, back in 1991, the heavy metal band Anthrax got together with the rap group Public Enemy and did a rap metal version of the Public Enemy song Bring the Noise. It was monumental. It opened up a whole new genre of music for bands like Limp Bizkit, Linkin Park, and many others. Anyways, Ricky apparently heard me playing that song. He came over and started stomping in place and headbanging, screaming, not, right in front of my car. I was just looking at him like he was nuts. What the hell is this fool doing, I thought. I got out of my car, it was mid-December, freezing my butt off, and yelled, Ricky, stop! What the hell are you doing? Man, I love Anthrax, he said. My band covers some of their songs in our set. Play it again, man. Okay, I said, but don't do that anymore. It's scary. Get in the car. It's cold out here. He got in, started talking as the song plays, and comes to find out, he plays guitar in a heavy metal cover band. I told him that I was a rapper, and he suggested that I meet the band, and said that we should do our own rap metal song, and make it about Barnaby's. I'm down with that, I said. I just started writing my rap part of the song. You want to hear it? Okay, it goes a little something like this. B to the A, R, N, A, to the B, to the Y. My friend, we're Barnaby's grocery store. You'll pay less and get a whole lot more. You never know what's going to happen. That's what makes it so exciting, you know? What you say about us being haunted, cursed, and all that stuff? Well, it's true. But what you gonna do? We're the only store in town, and you gotta have food. That's all I got so far. It's kinda whack, and it's a work in progress. Anyways, enough about me. On with my story. Now, Pat is big on Christmas. And when I say big, I mean really, really big. Last year, and every year before, so I've heard, he would dress up like Santa Claus and hand out candy canes, take pictures with the kids and their parents in his little workshop out back. He also made everyone that worked here at the time dress up like elves, complete with the hat, red and white striped leggings, the vest, and little bell booties. Well, except for Catherine, the assistant manager. She dressed up like Mrs. Claus. Yeah, those two are like pencil and paper, if you know what I mean. They try to keep it on the down low, but it's obvious to everyone. Now, not everyone looks good in an elf suit. I, for one, look like Homie the elf, and Homie don't play that. But a job's a job, and Pat pays me bank, so I did what I had to do. On the other hand, some people look really, really good in an elf suit, like Lily, the Native American woman that runs that memorial place out back. Yeah, I'd like to find her under my Christmas tree. Pat had to have been collecting Christmas decorations since the 1940s or something. It was off the hook, how much stuff that he had. Plastic Santa Clauses, giant nutcrackers, blow-up reindeers on the roof, icicle lights, you name it. He had 25 different Christmas trees, all with different colored lights and ornaments, among many other things. If you named it, he probably had it. There was stuff everywhere, outside and inside the store. There were wreaths hanging from the ceiling, garland draped all over the registers, and Christmas bows on all the shopping carts. It was nuts. One of the former employees, named Jimmy, who worked at the ASPCA, he knew a guy that ran a reindeer farm. He brought down 8 tiny reindeer and a little guy with a plastic red nose for the kids to pet and take pictures with. They were set up in a fenced-in area next to the workshop, and they also slept there at night. Jimmy slept with them. Now I'm an animal lover myself, but that guy is on a whole new level. There was even a huge life-size nativity scene on the other side of the workshop. After all, that is the real reason for the season. Pat would start the day after Thanksgiving, and spent the next month setting it all up. He kept it all in 4 huge storage units down the street. That's how much stuff he had. He asked for volunteers, but most people would volunteer before he even asked. Some people from town volunteered as well. I helped decorate the inside of the store. The reindeers really creeped me out. They kept looking at me funny, like I was their dinner or something. Homie gotta go, I said to myself. I did find out later that reindeers love fruitcake. Pat and the crew spent every day and night putting it all together in time for the big reveal. You could see the statues and decorations in the daytime, but wouldn't see the inflatables or the lights until then. Anyways, he had several of these artificial snow-making machines for the first time last year. He said that he found them on the curb in someone's trash. He fixed them up and put them on top of the roof, pointing different directions so that it would snow when the lights came on. There were wires and extension cords running everywhere, all connected to this huge industrial-sized surge protector with a long red and green striped handle with a plastic snowball on top, which was plugged into an outside electric socket. Now the rest of the Splat team and I spent the entire month of December making announcements that the official lighting of Barnaby's would be December 23rd at 8 p.m. Everyone was excited. Anyways, reveal day came. Many customers, people from town, as well as the neighboring towns showed up for the event. It was mandatory for all of Barnaby's employees to be there in our elf suits. So I was, along with everyone else. There were husbands and wives, boyfriends and girlfriends, girlfriends and girlfriends, and boyfriends and boyfriends. A lot of people even brought their dogs, dressed as reindeers, no less. And there were kids everywhere. So many people showed up that Reggie, the town sheriff, had to block off the entire street. There were people standing in the road, on the grass of neighboring buildings, on the roof of their cars, and hanging out the windows. It was insane. Candy was selling coffee and hot chocolate and little Barnaby's coffee cups for $5 a shot, as well as Barnaby's hats, gloves, and scarf sets for $7 a shot. Ricky and his band were playing Christmas songs on the back of a flatbed semi-truck. Lily was handing out the plastic candy canes that read, Miwi Kawadamus. That's Cherokee for Merry Christmas, by the way. People were singing along, holding their lighters in the air, and having a great time. I hadn't seen anything like that since the one time that I spent at Times Square to watch the ball drop on New Year's Eve. 8 o'clock came. Mr. and Mrs. Claus came out of the front door of the store. Santa quieted everyone down using the megaphone. Band stopped playing, and a hush fell over the crowd. Mrs. Claus and I would like to thank each and every one of you for showing up here tonight, he continued. We especially want to thank all the wonderful volunteers who helped make tonight happen. We hope you like it. Are you ready, Mrs. Claus, he asked. Ready, Santa, she replied. 10, 9, he started. The crowd joined in around 7. The drummer then joined on beat as everyone continued 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Mrs. Claus then pulled the handle. So I had to make another announcement. Attention Barnaby shoppers, let me ask you something. Everyone knows to leave milk and cookies for Santa Claus on Christmas Eve, but what about Rudolph and the rest of the gang? I'm sure that they'll be hungry too. Now you may ask yourself, what do reindeers eat? Well, here at Barnaby's, we have the answer. It's corn. No, not the 90s rock band corn. That won't taste any good. It's fresh, delicious, wholesome corn on the cob. That's right. Right now in our produce department, you can take home 5 ears of corn for just $1. That's right. Not 3, not 4, but 5 ears of corn for just $1. Man, you can't even buy a decent cup of coffee for $1 anymore. Stop on by, pick yours up today, and make Rudolph and the rest of the gang very happy. Or they just might leave some unwanted presents on your front lawn, and you don't want that. I'm going to go get mine right now. I'll see you over there. As always, we thank you for shopping at Barnaby's. Have a safe and happy holiday. Okay, now that that's over with, I'm back to the story. Anyways, Mrs. Claus pulled the handle. Barnaby's lit up so bright that I swear that you could see it from space. People began shielding their eyes from the light. It was that bright. Seconds later, they removed their hands from their eyes and started clapping and chanting. "Merry Christmas, everyone," Santa said. The crowd began pointing and smiling at all the different decorations as they began filtering into the property. Amazed at the sights, and the snow machines created snow that filled the air. There were blinking multicolored lights boarding the entire building as well. The doors and windows, even the candy cane fence, the reindeer pen, and the nativity scene. A giant blow-up Santa and reindeer team on the roof. Mechanical snowmen, various sized decoration Christmas trees, and even a film projector showing the claymation classics on the west side of all the buildings. Among many other things, Ricky and the band began playing more Christmas songs as Santa and Mrs. Claus began mingling with the crowd. It was quite a presentation. I was impressed, and I don't impress easily. Anyways, everything was going great, until suddenly, several loud bangs were heard, one right after the other, hushing the crowd and stopping everyone in their tracks. Thick black smoke and spark began to pour out of the snow machines as they began to shake and shoot large chunks of ice directly into the crowd. People began running for their lives and screaming. Ricky and the band hopped in the cab of the truck to take some cover. Jimmy let the reindeer out of the pen. Candy hid behind the empty propane tank at the back of the building next door. I hid behind Pat's big Barney bus and peeked my head around to see what was going on. Several people got hit in the head and face with ice chunks, causing them to fall on the ground. As the crowd trampled over them, blood pouring from everybody's skulls. Several teenagers grabbed the large candy canes and began to play baseball, hitting the ice chunks in all different directions. What the hell is wrong with these people, I thought. The baseball game was short-lived, though, as the speed of the chunks rapidly increased and took over the players. They quickly ran for cover. Just then, every single snow machine exploded, at the same time, shooting large pieces of burning hot metal and flames into the air. The pieces came soaring through the sky, like frisbees on speed, slicing, cutting, and severing people's arms. Mangled bodies, several body parts, and blood was everywhere. One guy got hit directly between the eyes, cutting halfway through his skull. Looked like something out of a punk rock concert. It was all very disgusting. Anyways, the flames caught the blow-up Santa on fire, as well as all the other decorations on the roof. I started yelling, "The roof! The roof! The roof is on fire!" You know the rest. Well, maybe you don't. Anyways, the decoration began falling from the roof, landing on the ones on the ground, catching them on fire as well. The fire spread quickly until every decorating ornament and tree was engulfed in flames. The smell of everything made you want to puke, and some people did. The smell of burning plastic is a smell that you will never forget. Anyways, the fire consumed everything. Except for the nativity scene. The fire seemed to go completely around it. Like it was protected by an invisible shield or something. Or maybe it was. Someone somewhere must have called the fire department as they showed up to put out the fire before it could reach the woods out back. It took them about 45 minutes to do so. The police arrived to help control the crowd, take statements, and send everyone home. The ambulances arrived and tended to the injured, and the coroner came to remove people. Thankfully, all the employees, Mr. and Mrs. Claus, and all the reindeer were accounted for. They had to get a large crane from the construction site down the road and a large animal harness from the neighboring farm to get the reindeer. Ricky and the band climbed out of the cab of the truck and stared at all of the damage. Ricky screamed out, "Rock and roll!" Everyone just stared at him as he slowly walked away. Candy climbed out from under the propane tank, found Lily, and they just left. Jimmy ran back from the woods and helped them remove the reindeer. I went to the bar in my elf suit and had a drink. I'm lying, I had lots of drinks. Anyways, the following morning, Christmas Eve, Pat, Catherine, Candy, Ricky, Lily, and myself, as well as many other employees and town people, came to the store to access the damage and clean up the mess. Pat just stood there in shock, mumbling to himself. I felt kind of bad for him. We all gave him a group hug, and that brought him back to his senses. Now, to everyone's surprise, except for Pat's, the store was fully intact. Everything except for the doors and windows. The inside of the store was, for the most part, untouched. Pat then explained that the reason he decided to leave the store, an all-brick building with a flame-retardant roof and flame-resistant siding on Lily's memorial room. Bricks don't burn. We replaced the windows and the doors in no time. Thanks to Bob from the hardware store down the street. He came in on Christmas Eve to help out with any supplies that were needed. We cleaned up the trash and debris around the property, put it all in heavy-duty trash bags, tossed it in the dumpster next door with the permission, of course. Pat then sent everyone home to spend time with their families, and then reopened the store December 26th at 7 a.m. This year, several employees, including myself, many of the townspeople gave some of the Christmas decorations to Pat to help rebuild his collection. It's nowhere near what he used to have, but you have to start somewhere. There is no death, only a change of worlds. That's an old Native American quote that my grandmother taught me back when I was a child. I don't remember who said it, but that's what got me interested in ghosts, spirits, and things of that sort. My grandmother, on my mother's side, is a very spiritual woman, always holding seances, talking with the spirits, burning candles, things like that. I learned most of what I know about the spirit world from her. She just turned 92 years old and has more energy than most 20-year-olds that I know. That scares me sometimes. Anyways, my name is Lily, and yes, I'm Native American, half Cherokee on my father's side. My father, David, is 100% full-blooded Native American. My mother, Shannon, is 100% full-blooded African American. It's a family joke. It's okay if you don't get that. Anyways, I also have a brother, Somas, meaning Thomas in English. He's a few years older than me, 6 to be exact. He chose to stay and live on the reservation along with my parents, about an hour away from where I live now. He's a deputy on the reservation police force. They have a saying, what happens on the res stays on the res, and they mean it. The laws are different there. Now, for those of you that don't know what a reservation is, it's a piece of land managed by recognized Native American tribes, such as Cherokee, rather than being managed by the state for which it's located in. There are about 326 reservations in the United States, give or take, mostly located in the western part of the country. The reservation that I am from is a Cherokee reservation. Anyways, when I turned 18, I'm now 32, I decided that I wanted to see what life was like off the reservation, so I went to my parents and asked their permission to leave and live on my own. They agreed under one condition. I do not leave the state. That seemed kind of odd, but it's a fairly big state, so okay. I agreed to that. I'd been saving my tips and wages working as a waitress at the Red Horse Bar. That's a bar on the reservation. Since I happen to be 18, I'm sure there's a lot of people who would think that there's no way that I could work at a bar. But since it was on a reservation and not governed by the state, the drinking age was 16, which allowed me to work there. I had a pretty good amount saved up, so I packed up what little belongings I had and moved out. I had to quit my job since I was moving off the reservation. Therefore, I could not work there anymore. Reservation laws say if you don't live there, you can't work there. My brother had given me a ride. We drove for a little while till I saw a sign that said room for rent. He stopped. I got out to speak to the homeowner. I rented a small basement apartment from a nice lady named Candy, and I lived there ever since. You remember Candy, right? She has a very friendly and big dog named Buster. Candy and I get along great. When I first moved in, she knew that I was looking for a job and offered me a cashier position at the grocery store that she worked at. Well, when it opened back up, that is. Some people called it Barnaby's. Apparently, they had a sewer pipe break a while ago, and the whole place had to be gutted. I gladly accepted the job. She said that they just had it finished and that it would be open in about a month or so. She also said that I would have to meet the owner, Pat, as he likes to meet all the new hires personally. She called Pat and set up a meeting for the next day at 1 p.m. That meeting would change my life and Barnaby's forever. The next day came. I got up, showered, got dressed in a nice pair of jeans and a blouse, ready to meet Pat. Candy was sitting on her computer, wearing a pair of leggings with smiley faces on them and a white t-shirt that said Operation Insomnia on it. I asked her what it meant, and she spent the next 20 minutes explaining to me what it was. It happens to be a YouTube narration channel, where the guy reads all kinds of creepy and crazy stories. She let me listen to a couple of stories before we left. They were pretty amazing. I ordered my t-shirt right then and there on the spot. I'm wearing it now. We hopped in her van, as I didn't have a car yet, and made our way to the store. I asked Candy if we could stop at the coffee shop across the street from the store for some coffee. Real coffee. Not that mocha, choca, frappa, kappa crap. Actual brewed coffee. I told her that I'd buy, and she agreed. Candy got an energy drink, and I got an extra large black coffee. You see, growing up on the reservation, we really couldn't afford such luxuries as cream and sugar, so I learned to drink black. The cashier really creeped me out. She had these really weird-looking green eyes. We got our drinks and got the heck out of there. We arrived at the store shortly after. Now, Candy was not kidding when she said that Barnaby's is an old store. It's a decent size, all-brick building. There's no big glass picture window in the front of the store like the big-name stores have. There are what look like 2 house windows on either side of a wooden door, painted white with the paint peeling off. There are no other windows in the whole place. However, there is a rather large room off the back of the store with its own entrance door. You can tell that it's an add-on, as it has aluminum siding rather than being brick. As we walked inside, the air was thick and heavy. I could tell something was going on there. An older gentleman walked up to Candy and gave her a hug. They talked for a few minutes about how everything was going with the store. I overheard him say that one of their regular customers, a man named Donovan, apparently he works for the governor of the state, and he convinced him to declare Barnaby's a historical landmark because of its history and all. Therefore, it would never be torn down. Barnaby's will live forever, I heard him say. He also said that the state pitched in the rest of the money that it would take to complete the renovations. A loud bang was then heard throughout the store. Candy, the man, and everyone else turned to look in the direction of the sound. Not again, I heard him whisper to himself. Suddenly, one of the guys up on a scaffold, doing drywall, yelled out, "It's okay, everyone. I dropped my drill. Nothing to worry about." Everyone sighed in relief. I just stood there, completely confused. Candy then introduced me to the man. "Lily, this is Pat. Pat, Lily." He extended his hand as a greeting. I extended mine to meet his. As my hand touched his, I suddenly became very lightheaded and dizzy. I started to hear various war cries of Native Americans preparing for battle, all at the same time. It was like they were trying to tell me something. I quickly pulled my hand back, covered my ears to drown out the noise, dropping my coffee in the process. I began to shake and thrust my head all around, my long hair hitting Pat and Candy directly in the face. I began screaming like a lunatic as I ran out of the store. Once outside, the voices stopped. I put my hands down on my side, turned, and gave a what the fuck stare at the building. Both Candy and Pat were running to my side, asking if I was okay. Shaken and a little distraught, I asked Pat if anything weird ever happened here, and if he knew anything about this land. He laughed. "You're not going to believe it." He then invited Candy and I to have a seat in his bus so that we could talk. That was the craziest looking thing that I've ever seen in my life. Candy and I sat on a futon while Pat stood in the doorway. He proceeded to tell me about every single thing that happened here, as much as he could remember, that is. The chicken fryer incident, the freak storm, black shadows, something to do with a Pepsi truck, and many other things. He also said that he had a ghost hunting team investigate the store about 6 months ago. He's still waiting to find out what happened. Then top it all off, he told me this place is built on an Indian burial ground. I was in shock. I was horrified. Indian burial ground, I thought to myself. Do you know how disrespectful that is? I was furious. I contemplated walking out right then and there. But a job's a job, and I really needed one. I thought of my grandmother, and that quote that she taught me many years ago. I decided that I may be able to help. I told Pat that I wasn't too happy with the store being built on an Indian burial ground, given the fact that I'm Native American. He apologized, saying that he didn't know. I accepted his apology and asked if it would be all right if I contacted my grandmother and asked her to come to the property and perform a seance, to hopefully figure out why the spirits are so restless, besides the obvious, of course. He smiled and graciously said yes. I contacted my grandmother and told her what was happening. She agreed to hold the seance the next Friday. Friday came. Candy and I drove to pick up my grandmother. My grandmother explained, as I loaded her equipment into the van, that she didn't know if the seance would work, given the language barrier, but she was willing to give it a try. This would be interesting, I thought. We arrived back at the store, about 11 p.m. Pat was already there. My brother showed up, unannounced, and offered to join us as a translator, as he is fluent in English and Cherokee. My father taught him when he was younger. How he knew about what we were doing, I really don't know, but he did. So we unloaded the van, set up in the field behind the store. We set up the table first. It was round and had strange writings in it. So did the chairs. It was really creepy. We used the security light on the back of the store so that we could see. My grandmother then put a homemade loaf of bread in the center of the table. I'm really not sure why. She then surrounded the bread with 3 white candles, forming a perfect triangle, and then lit them. She said that the spirit's world is cold. The heat from the candles will help draw the spirits closer, as the spirits will seek out warmth from the flames. She also instructed us to turn off our cell phones to avoid distractions. Then she explained our duties for the seance. She said that she will act as the medium, meaning that she will invite the spirits to come join us and allow them to communicate through her, if they choose to. She will also be one to close the session when it's completed. My brother, as I said earlier, will translate the answers, if there are any. Also read a list of questions, in Cherokee, that we wrote down earlier in English. Candy, Pat, and I were there for witnesses. We all joined hands around the table and began. My grandmother began saying by, "O great spirits that inhabit this land, we invite you to join us tonight. We offer you the gift of heat from these candles that sit before us. We offer you this bread to nourish your hunger for this world. Please come and speak to us." As she finished her invite, the wind suddenly stopped blowing. The crickets stopped chirping, and the air began cold and heavy. After a few moments, she repeated her invite once again. This time, the flames from all around the candles burst up about an inch, like a flamethrower when you squeeze and release the trigger. Then they went back to normal. Candy screamed and began to shake. "They're here. Be quiet," my grandmother said. "Ask the first question." My brother asked, "How long have you been here?" Suddenly, we heard rustling in the trees. We all turned our heads to look. The wind started blowing again, hard. So hard that it thrusted our heads all the way around. We were all fighting to stay upright. Somehow the candles stayed lit, but the list of questions blew away. Through the whistling of the wind, we heard a disembodied voice saying, "Many moonis." "Many moons," my brother said. "That means many moons." Candy began to cry at this point. "I can't do this. I'm scared," she whined. "Calm down," my grandmother had told her. "We're safe as long as we hold the circle." She was wrong. Suddenly an enormous gust of wind came through, blowing Pat's toupee completely off his head, blowing the candles out, then picking the table up and slamming it directly into Pat's and my brother's faces, knocking them backwards out of their chairs, and pulling Candy, my grandmother and myself out of our chairs and directly on top of them. Blood was gushing out of Pat's nose like a water faucet as he laid there unconscious. My brother's head was bleeding as well. He was awake and moaning. "Do not break the circle," my grandmother had yelled to us. The tables and chairs that were laying on the ground began to levitate in the air. They took flight, slammed hard into the back of the store and the security light, causing it to explode. Sparks had went everywhere. We were now in total darkness. Candy was screaming at the top of her lungs. "Shut up," I yelled at her. She finally stopped and began whimpering like a wounded animal. Just then, a dim yellow light began to rise from the ground through the grass, covering the entire field and the 5 of us as well. The sound of tom-tom drums began echoing through the night, getting louder as each second had passed. The ground started to shake, and transparent images of Native Americans began to rise from the ground. There were men, women, and children, slowly rising from the dirt and grass. I got the feeling like I just walked through a spider web, as I actually watched a spirit rise directly through my body. I watched as they rose through all of us. I'll never forget that moment for as long as I live. My grandmother then screamed, louder than I have ever heard her scream. "What do you want?" My brother mumbled the translation. Just as he finished his sentence, everything stopped. No more wind, no more drums, no more spirits rising on the ground. They were all standing around us now. I tried to scream, but nothing came out. Suddenly we heard another several disembodied voices saying, "Weswagetty," over and over at the same time. My brother began mumbling something that sounded like a word, but I couldn't understand what he was saying. "What, Somas? I can't understand you." He took a deep breath and said it once again. "Respect. They want respect," he said in a groggy voice. My mother then said, "I close the circle of communication, and thank you all for joining us tonight. You guys may now break the circle." I immediately grabbed my phone out of my pocket, turned on the flashlight, and went to go check on Pat. I shook him a couple of times, and he woke up, completely unaware of the events that happened. Dazed and confused, he sat up slowly. The blood caked to his face. My grandmother and my brother both sat up and said that they were okay. Candy, however, was lying in the fetal position, crying and shaking uncontrollably. I called 911 and said that there had been an accident and to send an ambulance. They arrived and attended to Pat. They called a second ambulance for Candy. They gave Candy a mild sedative, loaded her in the back of the ambulance, and took her to the hospital for an overnight stay. She was released the following morning. Pat, however, was treated for severe head trauma, taken to the hospital, and stayed there for a week and a half. He said that he got a couple of nurses' phone numbers, the dirty old man that he is. Anyways, my brother had to drive my grandmother and I back home. I picked up her van a few days later. Once Pat got out of the hospital, I called him and told him exactly what happened that night. I also asked if it would be possible to use that room off the back of the store as a memorial or tribute to the Native American community, for which I would have full control over. He graciously agreed. I contacted several people from my old reservation about donating items to the memorial: books, old Indian arrowheads, clothing, things of that sort. The response was overwhelming. I got a ton of stuff. They finally finished the store, as well as my memorial, and the store opened back up soon after. The activity had died down a lot, or so I've heard. You still see an occasional sighting or two around the store, but nothing too serious. I got my room organized. My mom helped me decorate, and I opened up soon after that. I hired one of the waitresses from the bar that I used to work at to cover the night shifts. She's a friend of mine, so that worked out well. My father, my brother, and several other people from the reservation often make random trips here to donate their time, taking pictures or answering questions that anyone might have. By the way, we never did find Pat's toupee.
If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, and hit the bell for notifications on future videos and become a stalker of the night. And I'll see you next time.